Yeah, see if that works. Ah, yeah, come on. Yeah. Oh, a few people jumped in. Wow, all at once. Awesome. What's everybody up to today? Me, I'm back at painting trees. Hopefully finish the painting today, actually. I get quite a bit done, so I can move on to some other stuff over there, hopefully. And I'll paint some actual miniatures later today. Gonna get my way through this stuff though. Morning. Yeah, background. My collection of the bulk of my collection. There's more stuff in boxes in the basement, but this is the stuff that, well, I won't even say it gets used the most. I wish it got used more, but it does get used though, hopefully. Being supervised by my cat, one of my cats. The other one, I don't know where he is. Probably sleeping. Oh, here, get some painting in though. Just got done finishing a box of miniatures I was assembling, and GW miniatures. Actually, not even mine. They're from my son. He bought. He actually bought them a while ago, and I finally got around to finishing assembling them. Been sitting on the table for no joke, a year, partially assembled. So the last couple days, I got those assembled. Yeah, we probably all have. All of us that are able with the space, I'm sure we all have stuff. excuse me, stashed away. Some of it I actually, some of it probably never use again. Some of it though, like probably the big thing I can think of, at least game wise, that I have stored away that, given the right circumstances, would see the light of day again would be my Star Wars D6 collection. That stuff. If I had a group interested, I would play that. I would play that. That's a good game. No, I don't want to do that. So I gotta wait for. I don't know why this. Oh, this needs green. That's why that's out. And I'll do a little. No, I'm trying to be efficient here, and I got trees in various stages of completion, and I'm jumping the gun here on the colors that I'm going to use. I need to do a couple more runs of gray to get the ground covered. Then I can pick out the moss and stuff with some green. But I'm jumping the gun here, so put the green away, Stan. But I have some rocks that I can work on while that paint dries, and I'll get those done. A better brush though for that. No, this one. That's the thing that's coming up a lot though lately is we've done on our Tuesday night stream. We've done episode not too long ago on games we want to get to the table, and it's just way too many, and the list feels like it grows daily. And I guess that's like the one downside of, like, I run long term campaigns, so we're 5 years into our current campaign, and I am trying to push it towards the completion, but you know, I don't get a chance to run too much different stuff. We do have a weekly group that I play with, mostly with the same guys, and we rotate game masters. So when my turn comes up, I ran Shadow Dark last time, and when my turn comes up again, I won't run Shadow Dark again. I'll switch to something else and I don't know what that's going to be. That changes daily. My guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about what system I want to run because it changes sometimes multiple times per day. I will watch somebody on YouTube, and like I did yesterday, the guy on YouTube he had posted something about he was going. I think his favorite system is excuse me, Warhammer Fantasy Second Edition, which I happen to have a collection of, and he was like, his group is going back to that. So then that got me digging. I dug out, actually on a shelf behind me, but I started looking at all that again. I was like, oh, I'd love to run this, and I'm always buying Warhammer miniatures because I use them in my games. I don't play the actual Warhammer game, and I'm like, oh, I have all these Warhammer miniatures. I could run Warhammer campaign. And it's a different system. It'd be fun. What are you running for campaigns? I got my Castle Crusades campaign that's going on. We're in year 5 of that, of real time, and I'm trying to wrap it up, but I'm not rushing it either. We deserve to let it play out. So we're definitely, but I'm definitely moving it towards some sort of conclusion. So we can go on to something else, and what that else will be, I have no idea. I have so many different ideas, different games I wouldn't mind running. You think, Maddie, is that light in the right spot? Yeah, it's literally sitting right there. I know, you got the whole table, but you wanted to be right over here. I know. Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. My CNC campaign is Castle Crusades, but it's got a bunch of rules from Hyperborea added to it because I really like Hyperborea a lot. It's on the list of what might do in the future. but I use my own setting, so I kind of don't want to leave my setting. So I might run some Hyperborea for the weekly group and just run. I have all the modules up on the shelf behind me over here, so I might just run some modules for them. Um, Recently, Old School Essentials, I have it, and it got bumped up on my list a little bit because the Demonic Grimoire PDF dropped, and I really liked what I saw. So I'm like, oh, that's a possibility for if I do a high fantasy game again. Adventurers Dark and Deep's up there on the list for high fantasy, but too many choices. Too many choices. Yeah, I started using my own setting several campaigns ago, and this is my third campaign set in it. Um, and my son is actually starting to run um, his campaign in it as well. He took an area that we visit in my CNC game and kind of fleshed it out even more, like, and is really developing it with a little bit of my input, but it's mostly him. Like he'll ask for a little bit of guidance because it's not like like every homebrew setting. It's not 100% fleshed out. It's always a work in progress. So he'll ask about certain areas that I may not have mapped or anything. And yeah, no, you're right, Roger. Got to play the list. Got to play the list. I was thinking of that this morning. Um, yep, got to play the list. Which, yeah, there's just so. I keep adding stuff to it. That's the problem. That, and I need more retired friends that want to play games. Yeah, CNC's good. I mean, it's not perfect. Um, it's been a good game for us, though. I mean, we can't. I mean, I grew up playing D&D and stuff, so I've been doing it a long time. But we always, jump from system to edition, and step fourth, we skipped that. We didn't have any interest, so we stuck with switched to Pathfinder 1E when that came out. But we played fifth edition for quite a while, and until I got really sick of it and finished our campaigns, and then we moved on. And I picked Castles and Crusades to move on to, and it's been a really good system. It kind of got us back to our roots of gaming, and I'm really happy for that. It's not perfect, but very few systems are. So, but it's good. Some of the stuff that I swapped, like in my CNC game for. Oh, you're a little bit ahead of me then. I probably started. I was born in '70, so I was started before the '80s. I had a cousin that used to live with us during the summers, and he introduced me to D&D. He was older, and he had the basic and expert sets, and then he ended up getting AD&D. We didn't. I don't actually remember playing a lot. I remember looking at the books a lot. We played a little bit. I still remember my first game. I got killed right out of the gate. It was just me and him, and I got killed right out of the gate. And but I don't know. It stuck with me all these years. I mean, I'm old now, and it's still gaming's one of my favorite things to do. And yeah, it just stuck with me. One of the few hobbies that I have, other than like martial arts, that I've stuck with over the years, pretty consistently. Like everybody, I've probably had a couple breaks here and there, but yeah. It was actually I had a break like in my early 20s. I was moving around a lot, and I ended up getting this job at like the biggest mall in the state, and working security. And one of the guys that I worked with, um, I was actually his. I covered his days off, So he trained me on his job, and he ended up becoming one of my very best friends. My buddy Dave. I found out he gamed, so like there was an instant connection there, and we became really good friends. Really, really good friends. Um, and yeah, we started. Then we ended up becoming roommates, and I dragged my old buddy that I grew up gaming with back into the fold, and we started gaming, and we've been pretty much gaming ever since for the last 30 years or so. Um, Roger, you got to hurry up that timeline. That's got to be sped up. Like we need to be doing more of this. I don't know if you need to start playing like lotto tickets or something. You got to speed that timeline up. Christ, by the time you retire, they'll be wheeling me out of the home to try to game. Whoops, shit. Yeah, that is a nice thing. Like I wasn't always a big fan of what I was doing for work, but in the long run, it worked out pretty well. I get to retire pretty young, so yeah, and then get called back in for extra. Oh, by the way, Roger, my rooster in the comments last night, he ended up back in the Kickstarter. So he's a big fan, I think. Yeah, and I'm honestly still considering it, like, which is shocking for me because, like I said last night, that's usually not my genre. But I thought it was pretty interesting. Like that was a good stream. I thought it went pretty well. Yeah, honestly, thinking about gaming this morning while I was putting miniatures together, and just like that, play your list. I'm like, I am probably gonna have to start playing more online games, um, just because you know to find people that I can run all these games for. I mean, my guys are great because they're open to play pretty much anything, but we just there's only so much time, and people have their turns and stuff like that, which I'm fine. Like, I had a blast playing in my son's uh, Dragon Slayer campaign, and we're starting Call of Cthulhu this week, so that'll be great. But it'll be a while, like before my turn comes up to GM. So I may have to consider running some online games, playing some online games. Whoa, Jesus! Hold down. Yeah, happy accident, right? Bob Ross shit. Yeah, and not I'm not busy all Saturdays, but most of them. That's the problem. There's most Saturdays. Like this Saturday, I'm playing in a game. I'm actually teaching jujitsu, and then I got to rush from there to my Dragonbane game. So I can't do anything this Saturday. It's why I don't play Necromunda at the shop at the Crossroads, is because they play on Saturdays when they play, and don't have that. That day is not a good day. And then I'm either running my own game twice a month or playing in somebody else's game once a month. So there's 3 Saturdays usually gone. And then who knows, that other one's a crapshoot. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. Needed a bit more gray. Break. Oh well. Yeah. You know what? We're going to hit that with a little bit more gray. If I can find it. Yeah. I can't play in that because I've already played it, but that is an epic campaign. I've played in some really good campaigns. That will be the best campaign I've ever played in, as far as like long term play. Mass was freaking great. There we go. Blend in there. Really good. I mean, it's a big commitment from not only the game master but from the players too. Because I mean, it is huge in scope. But it's really cool because you don't have to do. Whoops, shit. Oh, not doing well this morning. um, you don't have to do everything. Like when I was playing it, I bought the books just because I wanted them, and I never cracked them open until we were done. And I was like, "Holy crap! We didn't even go to like some of these places that they were talking about." But it's cool, and you have different ways. Like the guy that ran it for us, he ran it for another group. Almost a not. I mean, I think we started at different times, but we were playing at the same time. And we the group I was in had a totally different play style from the other group he was running. Like they were more like not by the numbers, I don't think, but they didn't get into it as much as we did, as like the role play and stuff. So we spent a lot more time in certain areas than they did, but they would yeah, and it just played very differently for him. He said, but that's kind of cool. Like from a GM standpoint, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to do that, but it's always kind of neat to run um, an adventure more than once for like different groups, because I think it's interesting because you get to see, like because they'll do something different. They will, like just like your players in your regular group will, you'll plan something, or think, oh, they'll probably do this, and then they do the total opposite, and you're like, oh crap, I never even thought of that, So you get to see that a couple times. I also think it's super important, like if you're writing an adventure to maybe for publication or convention play, um, like run it for multiple groups because you're gonna find any holes in your game. If it's like a mystery or something, and maybe you've left out some important stuff, or there's like these glaring just gaps or clues that you need to maybe make a little bit more subtle. Like Bloodworth did that. Like he's run that one I played in it. My very first Shadow Dark game I played with him, and he had that Conan inspired one. I mean, he ran that like over 10 times. I mean, he knew that thing very, very well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was thinking about too last night what you talked about, and you've mentioned it before, like with the True West Marches game having like that stable of characters. So like if you're like when we're talking about Grimm's game where you could get badly injured and have to heal, and that takes actual time, but then having another character you could go play while your other characters recuperating. I think that's a neat. We haven't really done that because most time the guys just want to play their character so they can, they don't want to miss out on experience and all that stuff. But I think it could add something. I have had like a little bit in our CNC game because we do have what we affectionately call the B team. So they all have these other characters that they'll play. I'll have an idea for an adventure and we'll do that, and they'll do the B team will do that. and which is kind of it's good for me too because like doing my own thing, sometimes you have these ideas, but there's not really a for me it has to make sense for the party to be doing it. Like I can't just like, oh, you're doing this now, you know. I don't think that's a really great way to do it. But I might be able to take like the B team and set them up and be like, oh, well, this like I have an idea for that actually that I haven't worked on in a while, but it's definitely a possibility. But it gives them a chance to be like, oh, we could do this, and then instead, so you get to. I think what that does, one of the things that that does, is it helps add depth to the setting. And this isn't just my brain saying this. This is getting feedback from my players that there's more going on in the world than just what their main characters are doing. So they have these other characters that are doing this. We did a session where in the city dealing with this cult, and they were under the city for most of it. And we did one session where they played. There's a couple NPCs like followers that they have. They played two of the players played the followers, and we made some other lower level NPCs, and they dealt with stuff that was they didn't solve any the big issues, but they got to experience what was going on top of the city while everything else was going on below it, and that was a lot of fun. And we even had a little bit of skepticism going into it, but by the end of it, uh, everybody was on board with what we were doing, and I just thought it gave us a chance to, you know, one flesh out the NPCs a little bit, but also just explore a little bit more depth to the campaign. Oh, almost done painting all these trees, Roger. Almost. Yeah, they don't like to switch out characters, Roger, which I get. My guys wouldn't. They've never really been into it themselves. But I think if you're going to run like something with especially some gritty realism, there may be times when they're down for quite a bit. Trying to get healed up. I mean, it's obviously easier to with a high fantasy game to get around that. I mean, in my CNC game, they have a eighth level cleric in the party, so yeah, and I get it. I mean, especially with games like old school game OSR games, like Cast Crusades, Dragon Slayer, all those, where the XP amounts they add up. I mean, I'd have to go back in my notes and look, but I mean, we've had some recent level ups, but they're getting fewer and fewer far between because the requirements are so much, and we don't mind that. But I also understand why they wouldn't want to miss out um, on the XP. My good friend that he can't play with us now because he's busy with some God damn it, some family business, but um, I mean, having conversations with him, he's bumming too about like he leveled up to like eighth level, I think, right before he kind of had to drop out. And he was a long term player, like he was in for the long haul. He just, they they bought a business and they have to run the business. So, but in conversations I've had with him, he's bumming about like all the XP that he's missed out on. If he'll even get back before the campaign now ends. Back then when he first dropped out, I wasn't thinking about ending the campaign, but I'm trying to move it that way. I'd like to like within another year at most. I'd like to have it wrapped up. I don't know if it will be. I'm not going to rush it, but just moving it along. Yeah, I'm really bad sometimes about um, giving them downtime. I kind of keep them under My 5e game was like that, man. They were under the gun like as soon as the campaign started. I think I did a couple times. Whoops, Jesus. Uh, Factor in some longer. Like I gave them like I think I gave them a whole year off in game for them to do stuff. Um, but I was really kind of bad about giving them downtime, and it's kind of been the same with. I mean, they've had more downtime. There's a lot of travel in my game because everything's spread out. There's nothing close, so they do get downtime. But now they're kind of under the gun. Like they have like the big bad and his roster of supervillains, and they're trying to deal with all that. So I think the groundwork. I like the downtime stuff too because I mean I even do it sometimes like doesn't even have to be like they've had a lot of downtime. Like if they're starting out and they've been hanging out in a town or their hometown or the city that they visit, I like to do one of the things I like to do is I'll start the session off with just them like telling me or telling us as a group what they've been up to. What are they doing? With their free time. That does a couple things. I think it gives them a chance to extrapolate on that stuff and then it also kind of warms everybody up to play. Especially with role play. Yeah. Oh man, having friggin' PTSD from short long rest. I I hated that stuff. We were playing 5e and like we'd get into one fight that ultimately if you break it down that lasted about 30 seconds. But you're expending your abilities and because of like the short rest, like a lot of those classes, if they short rest, they get stuff back. We'd have like one fight and then we'd be like, "Oh, can we short rest?" And they're like, "No, absolutely not. Like we've literally been fighting for 30 seconds. We need to move on. Like this is ridiculous." I ugh, not a fan. Not a fan of that at all. And even when I played classes that had those abilities, I was like, no, absolutely not. Yeah, I would be better off if I had, you know, XYZ ability, but we've only been fighting for 30 seconds. Like, we got to move on. I'm very much, or I try to very much be a player that um, tries to push the game forward. I hate just sitting around. I don't mind if we're sitting around role playing, no problem. Some of my favorite stuff. But like if we're like indecision or taking way too long to come up with a plan for something, I am definitely the player that is like, nah, I'm gonna go do this, and we're just gonna move it forward. It used to drive me nuts. We played Tomb of Annihilation, run by my buddy Chris, who did a great job. And but man, that thing was so filled with traps and puzzles, and every time we'd trigger a trap, like or find one, like the brakes would just like you were like throwing out the anchor, and all progress, and we would just sit there. And I remember sitting around in this one room, and it had a like a sarcophagus in the middle of it, and I played like a barbarian, which wasn't the best class for that adventure. I guess it was when we were like out in the jungle, but like in the actual tomb, it wasn't the greatest. Although when we did fight, it was a good class. Anyway, um, but we're sitting around. Like I think we sat there for a half hour of real time trying to decide what we're going to do about this, try to figure out what was up with this tomb. I literally just wanted to run over there, and I should have. I told Chris afterwards. I'm like, I really just wanted to run up and kick that thing over, and not a care in the world the what trap I set off because I was just so tired of sitting there. And he was like, "I wish you'd done it." So lesson learned. I am not a fan of that. I have no problem sitting around. I've had entire sessions where we just role play. There's no combat. There's no any of that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Um, but just sitting around like being indecisive, no, no, thank you. Let's move along. And I don't even need like I don't even do. I mean, sometimes I will, but like we're not combat's a thing, but we're not combat focused. Even like with like CNC or anything like that. In the last session, I had one combat. I mean, it was a good one. It was fun. Nail biter. For sure, we were going to lose a NPC in that one, but we didn't. But it was really good because everybody thought that, including myself. Uh, yeah, it's awful. Yeah, I don't know. I'm, I hate slow most of my stuff. Like I don't. It's interesting because I like the play to be uh, quick, but I don't also like it came up. I'm actually going to do a video on it, but I'll spoil a little bit. I want to do a video on why like we like the Dragon Slayer RPG, and I talked to the other guys I played with, and one of the comments was they like Shadow Dark. They thought was like probably a good con game, especially where time is an issue. But like he liked Dragon Slayer and Dragon Bane better because it felt like it had more breathing room to like role play. Yes, you can role play in Shadow Dark. I've done it, but that system, because you're always on the timer, you have to make a conscious, or the groups I've played with, and I've played it with groups that were big into role play. We had to make a conscious effort to do it because like you're just so matter of fact, like you're hitting rooms in a dungeon like a SWAT team, like boom, 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 which is great because you can really get a lot accomplished. But if you're not careful, you can really sacrifice role play. That was our experience because we realized like we weren't doing any, and then my my first character got killed, and I brought in one of the pre-gens. I played like a goblin wizard, and for whatever reason, that character kind of incited, like the way I was playing it, kind of incited a lot of role play. Like one of the other characters, players, her character suddenly like deferred to my character, which was really weird, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, planning the runs, doing all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. I we've done the same thing in many like um when we were playing, my friend Matt ran this huge campaign of Tyranny of the Dragons, and um, towards the end, I mean, we are fairly powerful. I think my character was like 15th level or whatever, but you're facing off with some powerful dragons and stuff like that, which you do need to plan, because if you don't plan for those encounters, you're going to die. But we would just spend like so long planning, and it would get to the point where like, hey, we need to do something like. And I know a good friend of mine, he has that issue with his group too. Like they'll go like whole sessions where they're just like planning this, trying to come up, just like I would get to the point where like I would be forcing the action. Like something would have to happen. I'm like, we can't like sitting around doing nothing. Like an example in my game was there's this city of Dornball. It's a big city, biggest city close to them that they go to, and this is where the brood mother, who was this giant, if you haven't seen the recap, she's a giant sentient spider, and she had like these she was making like basically were spiders that were going up and robbing the city and stealing people and sacrifices and doing all these things. So the party gets involved in this. Well, they have other things going on, and at one point there was a talk amongst them. They had dealt with it a little bit. They hadn't figured out, I don't quite think, what she was yet. But there was talk amongst them at one point about them kind of turning it over to an NPC adventuring party and um, the City Watch. They'd already informed the City Watch, one of the captains, about what was going on and all this. And they were going to leave and go do other things that they have to do, which I was totally fine with. They could go do that. What would have happened though was that when they came back to that area, because they were going to go a couple months of travel time north away from the city, when they came back, that city was basically going to be encased in like a giant web. It was going to be like, enclosed and taken over. Um, but they decided to stick around and deal with it, and they did. They were successful. Um, but yeah, there would have been consequences for them doing something different. I wouldn't have stopped them from doing it, and I didn't really care which way they went. I left that up to them. But yeah, there has to be consequences, and like sometimes, like I think if they're stalling out, like kind of like forcing the issue a little bit, like okay, we need to go. You need to act. Like I like some of the adventures. I don't really run them, but sometimes you'll have. I'm trying to think. I think Shadowed Keep on the Borderlands has a timer in it as far as like on certain days, certain things are going to happen. I know there's a Jesus, somebody out there. There's one from third edition that the name flew out of my head. It's supposedly the most well regarded third edition module, but it's about like a humanoid giant invasion and everything's on a like at least the beginning part's all on a timer. So like if the PCs are like farting around over here on day 3 and they're not taking care of issues, this happens on day 3, and I'm like that's pretty helpful, and helps I think keep them moving. But yeah, like planning heists and stuff like that. I've been in games where we were doing that, and yeah, you can that analysis paralysis basically, and you're just like, let's move. Um, hold on, let's be efficient. What system was that for, Paul? That you played the fantasy heist? Oh, yep. Yeah, I sometimes I think we lose sight of that stuff, but like I think you're right. Like there has to be stuff moving around outside of their scope, and if they deal with a thing, they deal with a thing. If they don't, you should have as the game master, you should have like, well, this is going to happen if they don't deal with it. And you shouldn't also, I don't think, expect them to to deal with everything. You know, I don't like. I kind of like I leave it up to them what they want to involve their characters in. But there's things going on. Like we had a early on in the campaign, they had a guy send him out to meet this merchant this before he came to town because the merchant had gotten in trouble in town and he really wasn't welcome there. But I think one of the NPCs still used him, so they were going to go out and meet him and get his stuff. Well, they get there and his wagon's overturned and he's not there, and they're like, "Oh, what the hell?" So they track, the ranger in the party tracks him into the woods, and ultimately it gets to nighttime, so they decide to rest because they were mostly human, so they couldn't really see where they were going. I think they had one combat that might have slowed them down a little bit or gave them pause, and then they pick up the track the next day. And ultimately they find this camp, and he's done. Like he's been killed by these humanoids, and what had happened is because they didn't continue on into the night to try to hunt him down, these humanoids basically just sacrificed him during the night. They ultimately ended up tracking the humanoids down after that and dealing with them, but that merchant was quite dead. But that was just the consequences of their actions, or lack of actions, I should say. But that happens. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I just lost these. Ah, good enough. And good enough. Wow. Yeah, I think it's super important to do that. Have that stuff going on. Like I said, it just makes it seem like a real, seems like more of a real place, and that's I think as a game master, especially, you're trying to get your players immersed in your game, like having it feel as real as possible is super important, and that's a good way to do it. Oh, gross. Yeah, right. Are you Dust City Outlaws? I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to look it up. Are you mostly are you in person or online, Paul? May have to saying earlier, I may have to start looking at doing some online stuff. Just don't have too much stuff I want to run. I have stuff like I wouldn't mind running again. Like I ran Dragonbane Adventure, Shadows over Gloomshire. That was a lot of fun. I would run that again for another group. Shadowkeep on the Borderlands, I would run again. I wouldn't use Shadow Dark, but I would use a different system and run that again. That's a great adventure. Classic D&D style adventure. Oh, I was super. Speaking of games, to find out that there is a Record of Lodos game coming. I know I've said I don't need any more games, but I may have to back that because that that original, not that the extra stuff that they did was bad. I just the original six video, um, six cassette tape, VHS tape set. It's just awesome. Like I really liked it. Like it was D&D. Like I've often said, like Record of Lodos is the D&D movie we should have got. It's better than any of the ones that have been put out, my opinion. And I'm not like a huge anime guy. I tried to actually, after, like, Lodos was my first introduction to anime, and I tried to get into it afterwards. And I mean, I watched some of the classic stuff, and I did go see crap. It's like a classic, like it's a total classic, and they showed it at a local cinema last year. Maybe it was even earlier this year. I went with my friend of mine. I went with him to see it, but I it's just, it's not a style that I typically get into. But freaking Lodos was awesome. I remember like first getting on the internet when I discovered it, and um, like doing research on it. And I did know there was a game for it back then, and there was a lot of fan sites and stuff. It was pretty cool. Dan, how are you? Talking, learning about a record of Lodos War RPG coming, or I'm babbling on about it anyway. Um, I'm gonna have to probably look it back in that because I just really I like that series. God damn, I think I'm just about done painting these trees. Christ. So you chose to chat with me. I don't know if you've upgraded or not, my friend. Oh, do I have two? Let's see. So the trees are painted. I just need to flock the top of them. So I had to paint all these little buggers. So these will all get flock on top of them, all for this grand project I'm working on. For next year's CNY, which I don't know if I can disclose. Roger's still here. He can tell me if I can talk about it or not. I don't know. I'm hesitant because I don't ever want to give away like somebody's plan if they're planning the release. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. So, and oh wait, I have this one. Idiot. God, I am dumb. Let's see what I can make of this thing. Okay, I didn't think so, but I'm like, you never know, you know. So I don't want to spoil. I don't want to be the guy. I'd be like, oh, Stan spoiled that, So I tend to say less, or try to anyway. Whoa, Jesus, we'll cover it. So yeah, the Roger and I have been talking since this year's CNY about having like a couple miniature based games at CNY. There was one, right, Roger? I thought I saw somebody with something set up. I didn't get a close look at it. I know Lord Gazumba, he was running a role playing game, but he had a cool table full of terrain. That was awesome. That was really cool. Nice setup. But so we've been talking about doing that, and we settled on Rangers of Shadowdeep, which I have but haven't played. But that's going to start pretty soon, actually. So Roger and I are working on a plan to have a table of that. So I got my 3D printer, so I've been putting it to work ever since I got it. Actually, it's been on break for a little bit. I haven't printed anything in a while. I've printed everything. I'll save that. No, I have not printed everything. Oh, that's right. It was Joe Block. I didn't get a closer look. I've never played that. I'll have to get a closer look. I don't know if he's running that at ShireCon or not. I know he's going as a vendor, but I don't know if he's running any games. But yeah, we're gonna do Rangers of Shadowdeep. So I'm putting the terrain together. Gonna start playing the game. Hopefully this week. Actually, I got my main gaming table cleared off, so stop messing around with the layout and stuff. Roger's we'll call Roger a technical advisor because one, he's played the game and has a better understanding of it than I do. So we're working on this together. I need a lighter brown that I don't have. Oh, I might have actually. Cool. I should wheel my portable painting thing in this room so I have better access to it in the other room. It's been in the living room ever since I got back from CNY. How so, Paul? Because I'm interested. Like if I can tweak it for my own play, I definitely will. I'm not saying there's going to be giant spiders in this thing that I'm running for um, CNY, although I'm not opposed to it because I do like giant spiders as monsters. But, and we're going to be doing some other stuff with the Emperor Choice guys. Again, I don't know if I can talk about that, so I won't, but I'll just mention it. There is stuff quasi in the works with George and Dave. Oh. All right. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that sounds like it was the infected tree scenario, I think. My favorite, I use spiders a lot in my game because I just like them. One of my favorite spider stories in game, I was running games at my local game store, Crossroad Games, and we were running like a West Marches campaign, but they kind of broke it as far as like I ended up with the same. We all ended up with the same play groups every week. It was a connected It became like a connected campaign that we just I ran. But one of the tables I ran for was all women, which was a first time experience for me. And there was a girl in there. She was a young teenager. It was her first time playing. So they were in this, um, going through this dungeon. They get attacked by spider swarms, and I get fairly descriptive as far as like her character got covered in a swarm and what was going on, and I got a little descriptive with it. And one of the other players, this a friend of hers, I think, just said, "Hey, it being her first time playing, was like, hey, if there's anything that bugs you or anything like bothers you, just say so. Not a big deal." And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." And she she looked at us and she was like, "No way." She's like, "This is awesome." Like and it was great. So we were off to the races after that. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. Oh, I want that one. Yeah, definitely tweaking it. Yep. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, it looks cool. Like I said, I haven't played it. I've had it forever, and like a lot of games, I buy it, and I liked it because, or I was attracted to it because it was either solo or cooperative. Like I'm not really into adversarial games. Like I don't play. I used to years ago, but like when I play video games, I don't play. Where we're running around just shooting each other. Used to do it, and I just got kind of really bored with it. I much prefer cooperative play. So like having Rangers be a cooperative game really drew me to it, and just the title of it. I'm kind of like Jason in that regard. It's like, oh, it's about Rangers. I'm in. This sounds awesome. And yeah, I've read it a few times. I've been reading it and bugging Roger, I'm sure, with questions and um but I like what it looks. I like the looks of it. It looks like fun. I've been actually talking to my cousin as well. He might be interested in playing it some if I can get him down to the house. He doesn't live too close to me, but he may make the drive to give it a whirl. Either confirm or deny. That's going to happen. So yeah, I got to start playing it so I understand it, and then the more I understand it, the better I can. With Roger's help, I can figure out. We can figure out how we're gonna tweak it, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. Oh, nice. I started working on a Hyperborea scenario after CNY that I wanted to run, and then I've done that a couple times. I've done it after like ShireCon. Then I never friggin' finish them. I was reading. I got inspired reading the Tui book because what is it? Swampgate. There's a like a setting in the Tui book, a town that they give you as a starting point if you want. And I started reading about that and then the area around it, and I was like, oh, this would be cool. I could do this, and then I worked on it for a while, and then I stopped. Oh, I will. I'll check that out. I haven't. I have not heard of that. Yeah, I got to crack that book open again, Dan, and get reading some more because it was inspired, I think, by that adventure. Um, what I was working on, very much so. I even bought like a couple miniatures to use for it, you know. So I'm like, I was right into the idea for a while, and then I just freaking petered out. Then I got talking miniatures and stuff with Roger about doing a miniatures game, and I dove onto this idea, and haven't petered out on this though. Getting the 3D printer of my own really helped because now logistically I don't have to try to get anything from somebody else. I can just do it myself, which is it was funny too because like thinking about like all the stuff like I've printed so far, like there's some of it here. I'm like, I could have just used. I'm bad at this. I had like other things, like all the trees. These trees are gonna look way better, but I have trees. I could have just thrown like all these trees on that I already have, but I just got into the idea of like making this very immersive board for the game, and I've slightly backed off a little bit on it, but like all the other like the scatter terrain that's going on to it, like that stuff. Whoop, I am excited about getting on there and making it look really good. Because, and I know Paul, you obviously you play miniatures games, and I know you go to Adepticon and stuff. And in my mind, uh, like when I think of like a terrain board at a con or even in my own games, I mean, part of the juice for me in GMing is when my players stop and take pictures of the table. But like, I would want I want to have something that like if you're playing in the game, you're like, wow, this is really cool. Like all this terrain, it's really cool. And then if you're not playing in the game and walking by, I want people to be like, "Oh, holy shit, look at that!" Like, "Oh, I wish I, yeah, I saw your trees, Roger." And they're fine for you. They're not fine for me. Like, not happening. But I want to like make people be like, "Oh, that looks awesome," and I wish I'd played in that, or if I can get into that next year, if they have it, I will. That's kind of what I'm trying to go for. And then obviously a big part of it's going to be, learning how to run a really good, scenario. So the it all works out that way. But that's my thought. And who knows? Maybe I mean, this time, maybe I'll keep I'll plug away at that Hyperborea adventure some more. And who knows? I don't want to commit to too much, but oh, right sword. I'm about to write that down. The other game, miniature game, and it is adversarial, but I really want to play. Well, two actually. I could go with two. Would be Mordheim, and then probably in this, and then I know this is backwards, but Necromunda. I just got the new version, the core rules. So I've played Necromunda once and really liked it, and would love to play it again. I started painting up miniatures for that too. I have a Delac uh, band that I'm putting together. Um, I just don't have they play it at my local shop. I just don't have the schedule to play, unfortunately. Whoops. That's not bad. Whoops. But Mordheim, I've wanted to do since I got into miniatures and terrain. Yeah, I saw. I don't know what channel it was. They were building. I think it was a Necromunda board, which are really cool. Like some of the stuff those guys that are really into that. I mean, they're basically building those boards out of trash, and they look fantastic. But there was some they had some 3D printed like buildings, and they had like signs, but they had actual scrolling LED things in the sign, so you could run them remotely, and that was crazy. That my local shop, the guy that runs that over there, Q, he has some good terrain. Like I used to have a bunch of pictures of it. Like he had like some of the cargo containers he turned into like little shops, and one was I don't remember the name, but basically the street dock guys, and there was tables with um, surgery tools and blood everywhere because get what you can get out in the streets. Yeah, Warhammer. I have Warhammer Quest 95, like the old one. On my bucket list of things to do is to get like all new miniatures for that game and then make like 3D tiles, which I've seen people do. They look fantastic. That game I really enjoyed. I played it a little bit. Like my son and I played it. I liked it because it was cooperative, and then you also had that like almost like role playing game progression to your characters and stuff. I regret I only ever bought two expansion characters. I regret not buying like everything for it. There was this where I got it was this like little hole in the wall shop, and they had it up on the wall with everything. And I bought the main game and two characters, and I didn't have a lot of money, so I never got anything else. And now that stuff is insane to try to purchase. Although I did come across somebody on Facebook that's basically redoing all the miniatures, like he's 3D printing all new miniatures for it. They look really good too. I don't know if he's just doing it to show them off or he plans on trying to sell them or whatnot, but they looked really good. The miniatures would be easy to replace, but and I'm sure all that other stuff's online. You know, you could get the cards and everything for the extra characters. Then you get stuff like this. Oh my god, throw my back out. I bought this at my store, and I bought it basically for the Skaven because I like Skaven, and now I have a ton of Skaven. But yeah, I'm looking forward to diving in. And some of these Stormcast Eternal guys would make. I've seen them painted up like with more of a grimdark theme. I'm not really into like the high fantasy of like Age of Sigmar. Like I much prefer like the old world and stuff. But I have seen some of the Stormcast Eternal guys painted up like with a grimdark style paint, and they look really good that way. I always thought they'd probably make like really good paladins or knights or something. But we'll see. I mostly bought it because of the Skaven, and it was a real bargain to boot. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, what did I get? I think I bought the Chaos Knight. I don't remember what the other character I bought was. I'm pretty sure one of them was the Chaos Knight. He was metal, where all like the box minis were plastic. He was metal, and yeah, I don't remember. I have the boxes in the office actually with all my other miniature skirmish games and stuff. Which I buy a fair amount of those just because the miniatures are really cool. You got all of the Trudvang box set, Kickstarter, just because they're coming out with Dragonbane Trudvang, so I wanted miniatures for that. Now I have them, and then Cthulhu Death May Die. I got the box. Oh, that was the other thing I got at the sale. I got the one box set I was missing from that. But yeah, I like Old Warhammer. Like I said earlier, I don't know if you were on then, Paul, but I pulled. I have God, no, pretty decent collection of the Warhammer Fantasy RPG Second Edition, and I've only run it once. I ran like the intro adventure in the core book, but I keep going. I like that world a lot, and I wouldn't mind running it to run something different for a while. So I don't know. It's on the list. Play the list, as Roger just told me. I bought the new whole Enemy Within campaign that Crucible 7 redid, kind of like the director's cut of it. I have all of that. That's really cool. A lot of info. That would be a fun campaign to run, but not the time. Guess it'll be what really strikes my fancy when my either my campaign ends or my turn comes up to weekly GM again. Oh god dang it! Yeah, I was really bummed when because when they first announced that they were bringing Warhammer Quest back, I was like, "Oh, awesome!" And then it was really a totally different game. I was a little disappointed. I was really hoping that naively that they would bring back, the old game just with new stuff, but that did not happen, fortunately. Yeah, yeah, I'd much rather play co-op than adversarial. I don't know that type of play. I don't know, just doesn't interest me as much. I mean, I could go at my local shop like every Wednesday night. They have huge like 40K stuff, and I like the 40K setting. And I've had opportunities to play like Kill Team and stuff. I got a friend of mine; she plays Kill Team, and I really like the 40K miniatures. I bought one. I have one right over there that I bought this past weekend, and I just haven't never done it. I don't know. I'd rather play cooperatively. Like I said, that's one of the main reasons Rangers of Shadow Deep appealed to me so much. Yeah, I've heard. I've painted a bunch of Warcry miniatures. I've never played the game, and I have some of the the big releases that I got because of the and I have heard people say like Warcry is like one of the best games that they came out with, and unfortunately, it looks like it's going away. But I could be wrong about that. But that is the rumor I heard about that. Not, and it's weird how they do it. Like they'll. I mean, I'm kind of glad, I guess, because like stuff with like Warcry and Kill Team, like the war bands or whatever they call them, would come and go, and like because they produce it for a little bit and then they would stop, but now they're each getting cycled back into regular, either Warhammer or Fantasy or 40K, which is good because like I don't have them yet, but there was like a unit of like the Orc Commandos, and I have no use for those miniatures, but I just think they're cool, and I wouldn't mind painting some of them. And but then they disappeared from Kill Team, but now they're in that same box as in regular 40K. So it's like, oh, all right, but that's the thing I like about one of the things I like about like Necromunda and Mordheim. Any miniature is a Necromunda miniature, or you can use any miniature for Mordheim. One because Mordheim isn't supported anymore, which is fine. The fans have probably done a better job with it than GW would have, but I kind of hope they don't ever go back, which is weird. Like it's weird what companies do, but like Mordheim is just still so popular that they don't they stop supporting it. Kind of weird, but the fans definitely do. There's actually a tournament that in New England. I think it's in Mass for Mordheim, and I need to nail down when it is because I would even just go to watch, and I've seen videos they've taken there, and the boards look awesome, and people come from all over to play it. I would go just to you know just hang out and look at check out everybody's stuff, get inspiration. I want to do a Mordheim board. I've actually been thinking about that, working on this board about kind of want to have like projects in mind with my 3D printing because it'd be real easy just falling the trap of just printing stuff that's cool. Like I did miniatures, buying miniatures because they're cool, not because I have a real use for them. So I want to kind of keep it to a purpose. And I'm like, I should, now that I have, my own 3D printer, I should really look at building that Mordheim board. And I could use it to play Mordheim. Um, Unfortunately, I missed an opportunity to play Mordheim at my local shop because the guy that used to run it there that I was going to play with doesn't work there anymore. I don't know where he is. So, but I don't know. I might be able to get a couple people interested in playing. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Better once I. Oh my god. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was all these crazy, yeah, crazy like the miniatures for Warcry were great. Like I have a bunch of them because they were really cool, and I was like, oh, I could use these in this role playing game or whatever. Like we're going to be playing at some point, probably next year. Weekly group's going to play some 2e Dark Sun, and there's a group that I have from Warcry. They're like barbarian types, but they're using like bone weapons and all this stuff. I'm like those guys would be perfect for Dark Sun because they don't have any much in the way of metal equipment or anything. They'd be awesome. So yeah, they were great. Those miniatures were great. And I still look at them. I was looking at Kill Team miniatures because like I said, I like 40K and some of the Kill Teams, and some of that stuff makes its way into my D&D game, Cast Crusades game. Um, it just happens. I like to mix things up, and I do a lot of home brewing stuff to keep my players on their toes because they're all veterans and they know what a goblin is. So I like to surprise them. That's one of the things that we've actually had even recent discussions about, like that being surprised. One of the things we liked about Cthulhu because we didn't know what all the monsters did, and we found out in game, and that was super cool. That's why I see people online sometimes give people advice. One person in particular, but he's like, yeah, you should. You have to even as a player, you have to read the monster manual and all this stuff. Like the last book you should read as a player, you should never read is the monster manual, in my opinion. You're spoiling you know your players play if you're like that. I had a guy actually that played with me when I was running games at the game store. He wanted to, invest a little bit, and we were talking about it, and he was like, "Oh, I should get." He mentioned getting the monster manual, and I said, "Don't buy the monster." I mean, I asked him, I'm like, "Are you going to run games?" He's like, "No, no, I'm just playing." And I'm like, "Don't buy the monster manual." And he's, "Oh, well," he's like, "I just want to be able." He wanted to be helpful, he wanted to know how to fight certain monsters. And I'm like, "Nope." I said, "You're ruining you're going to ruin your play stuff. Like just make that part of your play. Like you have to figure out what these monsters are vulnerable to or whatever. That's part of it. Like don't ruin it by you know reading ahead." And this stuff isn't really dry yet, but certain people are like, "Oh yeah, you got to read all the 1,000 pages to play and blah blah blah." No, you don't. You should read. You should read as a player, you should read about how your character works. Like figure out how your character works. Focus on that and focus on other stuff. But the last thing you should be doing is focusing on reading the monster manual as a player. That was one of the downsides, the only real downside actually, to when my son decided to run games is because when he was just a player, he was never allowed to look at the monster manuals. He didn't have any of his own books. He had just used mine, but he was never allowed access to the monster manual because I wanted that surprise. Yeah, Necromunda is awesome. Like it's the science fiction version of Mordheim, in my opinion. But it's awesome. Like I would like to play Necromunda like as a role playing game because the factions, the hive itself, um, is just super cool. Like I think it, it almost kind of has that, and you may. It kind of reminds me of Shadowrun in that regard a little bit, where you have like just that the setting and then the different factions running around, and I would love to play Necromunda, both the miniatures game, but also play like the role playing game. And I have the new um, Imperium Maledictum. I've been collecting that stuff, and it's good. I don't know if that system might be a little too crunchy for me, but um, yeah, I love Monster Manuals. One of my favorite books, but I do like creating. I I do create monsters. I also I'll port stuff over. Like I have like all the Pathfinder bestiaries and stuff, and I use those, and I'll convert stuff. And but like the last session I ran was a good example. A lot of times I just kind of honestly I make it up as I go, and my guys are fine with it. They actually know I do that. Like we were joking about it in the last for the last session. Yeah. Um, I got some of the books. Like I got into Necromunda before like this new skirmish book came out. So I bought like a few of the books. Like I have the book of the lot because that's that was the gang I was putting together, and I got a couple of the other ones. And the lore is just super interesting to me. Like I think it's really cool, and I think I would like to find a system that was like kind of like rules light that I could use in lieu of like something crunchier, like Imperium Maledictum, because the setting is just so badass. I mean, I was even looking at doing stuff with like the ash wastes, and then they have that set that came out with the gene stealers and stuff, where it's like a destroyed hive that got nuked because it got overrun, and they just in typical Empire fashion, they're like, we're not dealing with this anymore. I don't remember the term for that. Like there's an actual term that they use when they just basically neutralize a planet or a hive or something. But I thought like, oh, that'd be cool, like because it was almost like a dungeon crawling version of Necromunda, where you go into like this ruined hive for I think it was tech and stuff. That sounds awesome. Like I would love to, and I was dreaming up like because you have the Van Sar guys, the Van Sar hunters who are high tech and they had the better gear to fight and yeah, I had all this like ideas rolling rattling around my head, but I just got hung up on the system because it was just kind of uh slowing me. I don't pick up new systems very well. um so I like lighter systems. I don't want to get bogged down in the crunch of it all, but it's such a great setting. And I mean, the Imperium Maledictum box set, which I have, actually has like a fleshed out hive in it, so you could port a lot of stuff, around and kind of make it your own. And the game itself is geared up. I mean, you could play all different things with it, if but I mean, they're doing heavy stuff with the Inquisition. I've been getting those books because I'm a big fan of like the Inquisition stuff, and um, yeah, it's really neat. Like it's really neat. I would love to do something with that. And this is supposedly, I was asking the guy at the shop that does the Necromunda stuff, and he said if this was worth getting. I mean, he had milk crates full of books, and then he was getting this stuff, and he's like, yeah, he did like it. He thought it like kind of cleaned things up a little bit. And one of the complaints I saw from people that play Necromunda is that like the rules are spread out through so many books, and it's kind of a bit of a barrier entry for a new guy like me to be um, jumping into, because it's just like you come in like totally kind of blind and trying to figure things out. So I am gonna look into that. Oh, this is the guy I got. Um, I know this is backwards because I haven't figured out but I picked up this guy. I just always thought he's really cool. So freaking frightening looking. I like him, but Yeah, and I started buying miniatures, like 40K miniatures, just with the idea of um, playing, running role playing games there. I have the starter box for Imperium Maledictum. Yeah, he's a chaos guy. Um, Vashtorr the Arcaphane. He is freaky looking. Like he's part metal and part flesh. Have a better picture on the back. You don't have to worry about that. Super cool. But I have like miniatures for like all the pre-gens and the starter box set. I haven't finished. I need to finish painting. I think one more. I kit bashed this one miniature. I was really happy with that. Yeah, I'd love to do something set in Necromunda. I love the thing I like about 40K and the aspect of running a game there is it has like all the things that I like. Like it has fantasy in it. It has science fiction in it. It has horror in it. Um, so you can really lean into like whatever aspect that you wanted to do. It's just for me, it's just a matter of finding the right system to try to do it with. And I should just run the starter box set, and because I'm sure that's dumbed down for dummies like me, and get a feel for it because it looks like it would. It's a really cool setting. I'm a big fan of. Oh Jesus, missed all those rocks. I'm a big fan of all the like Necromunda, the 40K setting in general. Anyway, I think it's just a really cool, badass setting. Whoops, whoopsie. All right. Coming along. Looks better than it did when it was just brown. It's got some more work to do though. There is more work to be done on it. I have a bunch of those printed up. A bunch. But yeah, so much stuff I want to run, play. Too many ideas. Put this guy together. Lay it over here. Gotta find a spot for some of this stuff, actually. Let's see. I'm gonna paint this one next. Joys of having cats. Yeah, let's paint this one next. Yeah, it is daunting. It is very daunting. I think I came into it very late. Like I listened to old world fantasy novels like the Gotrek and Felix books, or the Audible books are great. Um, I got into 40K late, and I've listened to a bunch of the books, most of them about the Inquisition, like Eisenhorn and uh, shit, his apprentice. Um, damn it, starts with an R. I just drew a blank on his name, but him. And then I've listened to like the Caiaphas Cain series, which are just funny. And I have some of the other ones. I've enjoyed them, but yeah, there's so much lore. I did some with the what's her name? William King wrote the books. It was like a trilogy. I think actually it turned out to be 6 books, but it was about the Space Marines that are like Viking wolf guys. Um, hey, Dirty Dwarf, I'm doing good. Just painting and chatting about right now Warhammer. Painting some hill terrain. I finished up painting some trees. Um, Yeah, it is a bit daunting though, like the 40K stuff. So I think you have to kind of bite off like a as a newbie like me, you'd have to bite off like a small chunk of it and just focus. Like if you had a hive, like okay, we're just focusing on the hive. Yeah, I've played I have the second edition version of the fantasy game, which is pretty well regarded, and it's on my bucket list. It's on my list to run. I just recently dug it out again to take a look at because I purchased a ton of Warhammer miniatures lately, so I got a bunch of Skaven and stuff, and I already had a bunch of Skaven. So, um, but yeah, now we're talking other like 40K Necromunda's a good where we're at, like we're and then trying to come up with like the lore of it, like that can be daunting. Like I think that can be a barrier to games sometimes too, because like I'm a big fan of like Lord of the Rings, and I would love to run the One Ring, but I feel slightly intimidated about running it because even though I probably know the setting better than everybody else in my group, I don't feel I know it well enough. And I would really, because I'm such a fan of that setting, I would really want to do it justice. And I kind of feel that way about using established settings. Like I talked to, I have Chubby Funster's Shadow Rim, his spin on Skyrim, and I like if anybody watches the stream knows that Jason and I are big Skyrim fans, and I asked Jason about it, and we were of the same mind that if we ran it, and Jason did run it at ShireCon at CNY, that we would use the Shadow Skyrim setting, and that's what I would do. And I have players that be really into playing that because they're big fans of Skyrim, but they're also much more knowledgeable about it than I am. One of my good friends, he's like the Skyrim guru. Every time I get stuck, I just text him and I'm like, "Hey, what about this?" And he's like, "Oh, go do this, this, and this." Oh, all right. But I get, I want to make sure I would do it justice, and they wouldn't care; they'd be fine. But it would be more me, like being a little weird about it. And I definitely would know more about 40K than any of the guys in my current group. So it's not really an issue, but I just want to do it justice. I'm very big on selling the setting to the players, so it isn't just a backdrop. It's like almost like part of the game. Oh, I've never looked at RuneQuest. Um, I remember hearing about it. My cousin that introduced me to D&D. I remember him even back in the day talking about it. Like he thought it was like, and I may be misremembering this, but the way I took it is he actually thought it was better than D&D. I don't know how much he played it. We never played it, but I remember him talking about it and mentioning it. And I've never looked at it. Part of the problem was as a younger gamer, I was very myopic. Like if it wasn't D&D, I wasn't really interested. If it was fantasy, like we played other things, like we dabbled in Shadowrun for a little bit, played a lot of West End games, Star Wars, played some D20 Modern, but we didn't really like if we were playing fantasy, we were typically playing D&D. Matter of fact, the only foray outside of D&D I can think of, other than Pathfinder, which was basically D&D, I ran Warhammer for our group. Now you have me kind of curious, though. Yeah, I don't mind, you know, lore so much. I actually like to work on lore for my own setting. It's one of the things I enjoy. I don't enjoy, I've come to realize, I don't enjoy like the mechanical aspects of prep. I'm working on this NPC for my current game, and I'm trying to, stat the NPC out. I don't really enjoy it. It's why I end up like uh, when I run my own monsters, a lot of times I know like what numbers I need to know about, and I just kind of make them up and go with that. And thankfully I have players that aren't concerned about that stuff. There's no adversarial gaming in our group, so it's like they know I'm not trying to like whatever get over on them or whatever. So it's not an issue that I do it, but I yeah, like I'm trying to figure out like all the things for this NPC, and it's like, oh God, I get into it. I'm excited to do it, but then when I start doing it, I'm instantly like all my inspiration just kind of tanks. I'm like, oh God, I'd rather write like or figure out like what her plans are or all that stuff. It's just like, yeah, I'd rather do that than any of the other stuff. But sometimes you got to do it because you also don't want to like for me like if they're if it's somebody if they're not fighting them, I don't bother doing any of that stuff usually. But this is somebody they may end up fighting, so it's like they may I want to make sure that it's done right. I don't need this. I already did that. We can do this. Yay me! Oh no, not that one. Don't need this. Ah, Jesus. Like I enjoy like learning about like the lore, like Paul and I were saying. Read the book, listen to the books, read them. I like that, but I don't want it to be like a huge barrier to get to actually play the game if I'm going to play a game there. And then not knowing anything, like I was reading the adventure, the starter adventure for in the starter box set for Imperium Maledictum, and it would just mention something in passing, you know, like a servitor or whatever, and I was like, what the hell exactly is that? So then it leads me down this rabbit hole where I'm looking all that stuff up because when I say it, like I think, well, I didn't know what it was, and the players aren't going to know what it is, and if they ask me, I want to be like able to answer their question and be like, oh, it's this, and it looks like this. But I kind of look at it too as like it's kind of cool to learn about that stuff. Like my first big commission was for painting a Dark Angels army, and I had never painted any 40K miniatures up to that point, and I certainly didn't know anything about the Dark Angels, but I did learn a few things along the way about doing both, which was cool. Like that was cool. Yep, same. I do the same thing, Paul. You just kind of, and I know like you'll appreciate this. And I always joke about getting crucified at the OSR cross, but yeah, I do stuff like that. There's times where, and I know other game masters in my group do the same thing because we've talked about it. There's times like we're having they're in a battle or whatever, and the bad guy, and they're just whooping that thing's ass, and like the amount of hit points that it has, they should have defeated it. And sometimes I'll just be like, I'm giving this thing 3 more rounds, and then it's going to be dead. And so their stuff does matter because if they weren't hurting it at all, I would just keep whooping their ass. But sometimes I'm just like, I just want this thing to do something because you want it to be a little bit more of a meaningful encounter. And I'm like, this thing's got a couple more rounds and then it's going to be dead. And I track their damage and everything, and I keep track of it all. But sometimes just need it to stick around a little bit longer. But I think like with my and that may not work for certain play groups, but for mine it does because they want to have game masters that do it themselves, and we all appreciate it because you get a much more satisfying combat out of it. I mean, I'm not opposed to having a combat every once in a while where the party just gets to be badasses and whoop the tar out of something. But a lot of times, you know, you want something to be really meaningful or impactful, and then the dice just bone you the entire freaking time. It's like, kind of a letdown. Sometimes you let that happen too. I remember years ago playing a game. I was a player, and it was me and another player, and we walked into. I don't remember who the big bad was back then. It's been so long, but we walked into that room, and the guy did his little monologue for a little bit, and then the guy I was playing with just hauled off, and his character chucked a hand axe at him, scored a critical hit, and killed him. And the tables we were using at the time were pretty brutal, and literally killed him in one hit. And that was it. And our my buddy Dave, who was the game master, was like beside himself. He's like, because that's not at all how he pictured that going. He pictured something much more dramatic. But I guess it paid off because we still talk about it 30 something years later. But some guys, I know talking to like my friend Mike and his group, like talking about his group that like they're by the numbers, like, oh, something happens and they're like, oh, there's no way that guy has, this percentage to be able to do this skill. And I'm like, that's like foreign to me. Like my group, none of the groups I play in would ever do that. Like they're like, okay, that guy's apparently better at it than, you know, I've brought out one of the things I really liked about third edition was the templates or giving you had the templates and then you could also give everything pretty much class levels. And I love giving stuff. I do it in CNC. I mean, their first big bad adversary of the campaign was a bugbear warlord, and he was a ninth or 10th level fighter. He had 9 or 10 fighter levels, and they ultimately ended up finally killing him. But like he was no slouch, and it allows me to use great monsters like the bugbear even into the higher levels. I'm using hobgoblin. They're eight. My group right now are 8th to 10th level. I'm using hobgoblins are like their big bad, like they're going after a hobgoblin chieftain. They just fought one, not the chieftain, but like a captain, and he was powerful, So not as powerful as them because they whooped his ass, but oh, I've heard of this article, Paul. I've heard people. Yep, I agree. I agree, Dirty Dwarf. I agree. And that's what you're talking about, Paul. That's a great way to do it because it at least gives you a baseline to get started. Like if you're trying to work on something, come up with your own thing. Like I said, I like to do homebrew monsters and pull monsters in from different games and systems and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, I could just use this. And then if you have like that, base the template off that and off the bear and just go from there. Add your abilities. I also like one of the things I know, like because you talked about playing it, and I played it twice to draw steel. I and there's I've seen some controversy about it, but I have always liked the idea of like the minion rules too, and I use those a lot. A lot. That's not true. I do. I use them because I like them. Like I do things narratively sometimes. Like the last game, they were charging the gate and they got surprised by hidden archers and like the one of the NPCs that they're with, she just ran over and there was like three hobgoblins in a trench with a blind on top. They'd flip the blind up and start shooting at them. And I rolled the hit for the the NPC, and I rolled a nat 20. She's also a Verbal giant, and I was just like, she swings a great sword with one hand, and I just like, she just cleaves like two of those, like their heads just go flying off, and then, you know, pretty much took care of that fight rather quickly. Um, yeah, I don't mind it. Like I'm not a guy that has to be bogged down with, or even wants to be bogged down. I like to play to be fast, but I like one of the things I liked about Draw Steel is when we did like the starter adventure, like we were in this dungeon and we used like miniatures and battle map, and my friend was running it, and I remember going into this dungeon, and I brought like a bunch of miniatures for us to use, and he just laid out like down this room, and there was just like a ton of miniatures. Like we were adversaries. I don't remember what they were now, but that we were facing off against. I was like, holy shit! Like there's only like four of us here. But what we with that, you'd go up and you'd hit a group. You'd hit somebody, and if it was a minion, you were actually hitting everybody in that group. So you were just like, and it was still a good fight, but like you were able to. You had this like image of like wading through all these numbers, like big Conan-esque, like Crom Count the Dead type thing. That was super cool. Like I liked that part of it. It was a little too crunchy for me, but character creation was like, well, we found the online thing, which made it a lot easier. But I think it would make a. It was neat to try to figure out like your ability and combo your abilities, and not only with yourself but with your fellow party members. I did think that was neat. I don't think it's something I'd play long term, but I didn't mind it. That's good. Yeah. I mean, we were learning it too, so I'm sure like if you know it, it's obviously going to play a lot faster than we were. But I didn't hate it. It just wasn't the system for me. I have no problem. I have sitting over there in the corner. I have a freaking copy of Daggerheart. Like I played it a few times. I had fun playing it, but it was not because of the system. It was because of the people I was playing with. I got to play around it. We played a game set in Eberron, which was neat. I like exploring settings, so we got to dive into Eberron. Not, I don't think it's a very good game, but especially for something that's supposed to be narrative, it's pretty crunchy for a narrative game. I don't have a hang up about. A lot of people complain about the cards. I actually thought the cards were really good, like because it kept me from. I had all like my abilities that I could do laid out in front of me. I didn't have to flip. I never opened the book while we were playing. I could just look at a card and be like, "Oh yeah, this does this." Yeah, yeah. It was neat. Like you could kind of like riff off each other with your abilities and stuff. Yeah, that was neat. That was neat. I didn't. Like I said, we only got to play it twice, and that group we haven't gotten together. I don't think we've gotten together since then. Actually, we schedules have been awful for that. We were playing every week, and we would do different. Oh, excuse me. We would do different games. That group we tend to do. We do play different games, but we also tend to really. Dragonbane gets used a lot in that group. Yeah, we use a lot of Dragonbane. I looked at his that new one he's got coming out, kind of his answer to Shadow Dark, but there's I like the art a lot. Like he does a good job of that anyway. His art direction is usually pretty good. Um, but I looked at it. Yeah. Part of it was it was too expensive. I didn't feel like spending that much money. And Shadow Dark did not land with my home group very well. So they didn't hate it, but it's nothing anybody seems to be clamoring to play again. And that's fine. And that's why we play different games. We try to learn what we like and what we don't like. And that didn't really land too well with them. The only one that's expressed any interest in playing it again is my son. but he only played 2 sessions with us. So, and he had a actually a good character. Like it was just a meat grinder, and we're not a group that's really into that. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, the whole I don't know. It just Daggerheart just didn't do it anything for me. I didn't really expect it to. I mean, I think we had longer term ideas of playing it. That's why I ended up picking up the box set. But I didn't hate it. But it's like, and I don't bash on it like a lot of people do. But it's just not the game. It's not a game for me. It doesn't have to be. You know. And like Dirty Dwarf said, nothing has to be forever, right? Like played it. Yep, not the game for us. We'll move on to something different. Um, and I like. I mean, I'm obviously a guy that likes long term play, but it's nice to play like a little one off here and there, and then um, learn if you like a system. Like talking to Grim Jim last night. I I'm not usually a fan of like Asian settings. It's just that this doesn't interest me. I hate Asian monks and Asian style monks in D&D. They don't fit in my opinion. Like I like the Dragon Slayer monk because he's more of a European style monk than a kung fu fighting. It just doesn't work for me. Never has. I've never liked the monk, and but like I don't know, just the way he was explaining that game, it sounded kind of interesting. And one of my guys has already backed it, so I may end up backing it to pick up because it's. I would like to if we play it, I'd like to really kind of dive into the setting of it because it sounded interesting, and then the concept, which you could do in any game, but the concept of that, you know, band, kind of like getting involved in different things, and sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. Um, I don't know, it just sounded kind of neat, and then the degrees of how much you can have magic and fantasy or horror in it. Yeah, it sounded good. Sounded good. Piqued my interest. I went into it not interested really at all, and then looked a lot more at it. And my one of the guys in my group, my buddy Matt, he is into that stuff, and so he ended up we chatted about it most of the night, and then he ended up backing it. So I may end up backing it too, just so we have a couple copies of it if we play it. And I would play it for sure. Like if Matt wanted to run it, I would definitely play it. Hell, I've already been look like it already got me down the path of looking for like miniatures and stuff to use. Yeah, OSC is good. I like OSC. I've gotten more interested in OSC. I've only played OSC a couple times. My son ran it last summer for me and a buddy, a few sessions. I liked it. I like some of the stuff like in Dragon Slayer better, but I OSC is good. And now with the demonic grimoire that's coming out, the PDF's out. I really like that book so far from the bit I've read through it, and it kind of sparked my interest a little bit more in that in OSC. So I'm like, oh, bump that up the list on the things I'd want to run. I have some adventures for it. I could use it as my regular system for a new campaign. So there's some options there, and I know there's a sequel to the grimoire in the works for dealing with like necromancy, and I like all that stuff in my games, demons and all that stuff. So yeah, it could definitely OSE has a chance of becoming a regular thing. We did kind of use OSC, a mix of OSC, which didn't overly work super well, but when we ran Ravenloft, one of the Ravenloft modules that we went through, I know my character was built out of OSC, but we were also mixing in some second edition stuff, and you got to be careful with that because the numbers don't all add up. Yeah. Well, the problem is they're so used to, in my opinion, I've seen this even with my own players when I switch to like CNC, is they come from games like 5e or Pathfinder where your character has this laundry list of abilities that they can do, so they end up playing their sheet and not playing their character. You know what I mean? Like they just look at their sheet. So if they don't see like all these things on their character sheet that they can do, they don't think they can do anything. And it's the exact opposite. It's like freeing because you're not restricted by it, really. Obviously there's rules, but one of my guys, I've mentioned this before, when I switched to CNC, he was very skeptical. Like he thought he wanted to go to like Pathfinder 2e, or which I had no interest in. I've never seen anything in Pathfinder 2e to interest me. I would play Pathfinder 1e before I played 2e. But he just thought the characters were going to all be cookie cutter because they don't have like all the stuff. And then it was he did the right thing. He gave CNC a fair shot, and then he became actually one of the biggest fans of it. Like he was actually urging the other DMs to switch to it as their system, and which I never did. I was like, you can run whatever you want, but I'm not running 5e anymore because I don't like it. And Yeah, it's not like it's actually much more freeing than like some of those systems where you're not bound by just tell me what you want to do and I'll tell you what dice to roll if you have to even roll any dice. But yeah, some players have a hard time grasping that, which is too bad because they're missing out on some good gaming. I think some better gaming, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I'm not rushing to do that, but like if I had a choice between having to run Pathfinder 1e and Pathfinder 2e, I would pick Pathfinder 1e. Honestly, the same would go if I had a choice between running um, 5e or Pathfinder 1e. I would probably, even though I think it's a crunchier game, I would probably go with Pathfinder 1e. One, because I like a lot of the stuff in it better, like the classes, because obviously there's so many, but I like the classes a lot better. And really, the only class that I didn't grow super tired of in 5e was the Paladin, the original, but not the way they do it now, but the original version of the Paladin. I really like the Paladin. I had my buddy Chris played a Paladin in a campaign that I ran, and I got to see a higher level Paladin. I think he was 12th or 13th level by the time we got done in action, and I really just really like that class. I didn't find it game breaking like a lot of people did or complained about. I enjoyed it. Most of it, like the Rogue, is the most overpowered class in Fifth Edition, in my opinion. I played a game with a high level Rogue in it, and he was better than any fighter in the group, and just yeah, just super overpowered. Especially the Swashbuckler version of it. Some of the other ones are okay, but the Swashbuckler, in my opinion, is way overpowered. I mean, I had a Swashbuckler like toe off with a freaking like Baylor. He didn't go toe to toe with him, but he freaking hey, I got it set up right. Bloodworth, you can actually comment. I'm learning. I'm learning. Yeah, I just wasn't a fan. Wasn't a fan. So, but I much prefer a lighter system. I'm not going to go out of my way to run any of those. I do have a good collection of Pathfinder 1e that I picked up, like the pocket editions, because they're pretty cheap on Amazon. So I use them as reference books, especially the bestiaries and stuff like that. Nice. Yeah, I've never done anything like that before. What the? Need a brush. I do like that, like organically growing the character. Like there's rules even in CNC that I would ignore if my players were interested in doing things like the old like multi class. We don't really have much multi classing because of the XP cost for it. But I have had characters multi class in games before, like my 5e game that I ran. My son's cleric. There was a really good story behind him, like a lot, like, and then it got into like super high level play, and he ultimately his character became like a champion for his god. He was a dragonborn or whatever, so he became a champion of Bahamut, literally like one of his champions. And at around, I think it was 14th level, he got to 14th level as a cleric, and then after that he started taking paladin levels, and it really made a lot of sense for his character to do that because of his stat, and that worked. And I've always been like, I don't like the rule where, oh, you have to decide multi-classing at first level. Like, why? Like, how would I even know that? Maybe I do, but maybe I don't. Maybe, like, I always use this example. Like in my game, we have my son's ranger, and then we have my buddy Chris's halfling rogue, and maybe those guys, the game takes them and they go to the city, and the ranger starts doing a lot of stuff with the rogue, and he decides, oh, I want to take some like rogue levels, because and it makes sense because you've been doing rogue stuff. Like, yeah, I'm much more open about that stuff and let them just develop as they go. Like, if somebody wanted to multi-class right off the bat, they certainly could. But I'm also some of those older rules that are very restrictive. Um, they don't make a lot of sense to me, so I don't use them if they come up. They don't come up very often because, like I said, most of our guys don't want to multi-class. But yeah, I like that too. Like um, like I've said it before. Like Dragonbane is my favorite fantasy game. If I'm not talking D&D style game, Dragonbane wins hands down. And I really like Dragonbane has a skill system, and like you can, as you earn points, if you earn upgrade, you can upgrade any of your skills that you want. Like you have classes or professions they call them, but you can like I in my current Dragonbane game that I play, and I play an ogre fighter. Go figure, right? But like there's been a couple times where like my ogre fighter with like his shit, like I think he has like a 7 charisma or something. It's awful. It might be that low, but it's pretty low. But I've used like skills like persuasion or whatever it is. I don't think it's called that, but the equivalent to like get us like accomplish stuff for our party. And so we joke that, oh, I'm now the party spokesman. I've actually put points into a boosted that ability, like pickpockets. Like one of the characters gave my character, he couldn't carry anymore, and I could. So he's like, hey, I have this masterwork version of like some lock picks. Can you carry those? I'm like, yeah, I'll carry those. I don't know if I've used them yet, but I'm like, I'll use them. So and my guy's kind of like his background, he's a grave robber. So he's not like the most up and up guy anyway. Um, but yeah, I've put skills in points into or my roles into boosting some of those more esoteric skills that normally a fighter wouldn't have. But I've done it, and it's fun. Yeah, that I love that system. Just even talking about it makes me want to run it because it's such a great system. You could play so many different styles of games with that system, and I like when we went back to CNC and using ah, gold for XP. I like that. But the downside to gold for XP is that ultimately, if your campaign plays long enough, you're going to get to a point where money isn't really much of an issue because you get most of your XP through treasure. So I like that in Dragonbane. It's actually low. You can really play like it's easy to play, like that low fantasy Fafard the Grey Mouser type thing where you get a little bit of fortune, you drink it away, but then you're poor again because you don't have a ton of it. I really like that. Dragonbane's on the bucket. It's on the list of. I'd actually like to. I mean, I'm doing it as a player. I'm playing a long term drag. We've been playing for a while. Dragonbane game. I would like to run one just to see how it shakes out long term. To me, it seems to be working very well. I mean, we're still we get, if you're familiar with Dragonbane, it has like heroic abilities and stuff, and we get those as like, you get them when you boost a skill to 18, but we also get them for completing campaign stuff. We're playing Ave Nox, so we have a decent amount of like heroic abilities and stuff, but it hasn't, in my opinion, it hasn't broken the game at all. Um, it's it's still running fine. I mean, those heroic abilities still take willpower points to pull off, so it's not like they're just free. But yeah, what a great game. But I like games like that, Paul. Like if you know, getting away from like levels and stuff like that. I have some players that are like, "What? There's no levels?" I don't understand. They've only really played D&D. Yeah, I didn't like. I've never been into like the really weird ones. Like third edition was bad at this, fifth edition too. But you would literally Pathfinder, same thing. Like taking one level of a class just so you get this ability. That is the for me like multi-classing. Like the abilities are secondary. Um, I think they should be second. Like it needs to make sense for your character. I'm not suddenly just taking a warlock level um, because I want Eldritch Blast. Like, why am I suddenly like, have this patron and all this stuff? Like, there has to be a narrative reason for it, and I'm very big about that stuff. Um, like in my current game, my son's character, his ranger just leveled up to ninth level, and I like the CNC uh, ranger as it's written because he can't cast spells. My son though wanted to do that, and there are rules for it in CNC. I don't like all the rules, so I took what I wanted and ignored the rest. But we we talked about it early on, and from the very beginning, we were like, "Yeah, you can do that if you want, but we're going to have to figure out a way for it to make sense because just because you're ninth level, all of a sudden, oh, now I get to cast spells is lame. So I came up with a reason in game that now he has the ability to cast some druid spells. Much prefer that. Yeah, I super recommend Ave Nox, Paul. I have thoroughly enjoyed it as a player. Mega Dungeons, as we all know, can get kind of repetitive and boring. I have not felt this at all. You're probably familiar, but it's from the guys that made Cess and the Citadel and the other one that I have, the forest-based one. That's generic. Uh, Into the Weird and the Wild. Um, super fun. Lots of weird factions there, and trying to figure out the history of this place and what happened, and um, and it's filled with like different monsters and we haven't, there's not the standard goblins, and which I have, I love those too, but it's cool to have somebody do something very different. And I will actually buy a copy of Ave Nox before or after the campaign's done, with the thought of maybe using it because I have enjoyed it. And yeah, yeah, I would definitely recommend grabbing a copy. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that stuff makes no sense. If you could come up with a reason narratively why um, you could do that, like say you're a wizard, maybe you get captured and you don't have access to spell books and components, and you just have to fight this like bloodthirsty battle to get away, and you somehow survive it as a wizard. Maybe narratively you see red, and when you're going to whatever you, but just to be like, oh, 1 minute you're walking down the street as a third level wizard, and then, oh, I got a level up, I'm going to take barbarian so I get you know 10 extra hit points and can rage. No, you're not. I wouldn't even let that fly in my game because I'd be like, nope. You need to. There needs to be a reason you can do that, and just leveling up is not it. Yeah, I never did that stuff like playing third edition. I never did the whole or Pathfinder where like, you're just going to take a little dip into this to just to get those abilities. I just don't like that style of play. I want it to make sense for. Hold this up so you guys can actually maybe see it. Almost done with this. Well, I say that. Yep. Yeah, we never did like training. Never did it. Maybe we should have, I guess, but I never was into that. Um, but it's a good way to actually get rid of that extra money. But like I do like that. Like your example is a great one. Oh, I've been traveling with these guys. Okay, yeah, I know something about their stuff, so maybe I pick up a ranger level or something. That makes sense to me. Like I said, if it, I'm much more into like the narrative of it making sense than just mechanically. I'm like, oh, I get to do this, yay. Nah, I've seen that done in games, and we all kind of shook our heads like, what? Like, how are you? Why are you suddenly doing this? And I've actually seen it done to like the detriment of the character. It's like you had the ability to do like if you because sometimes multi-classing. I mean, obviously you're never going to be the best at your core class because you will never be able to attain those levels. So I've seen guys multi-class and we're like, why did you do that? You would be like a ninth level cleric right now. Instead, you took these other levels, so now we don't have access to. And they narratively, there's no reason for it. Now we don't have access to these higher level cleric spells that would be awesome. And there's some awesome higher level cleric spells. So that stuff, yeah. I mean, ooh, Jesus, yeah. I think it has to be done the right way. Or you just play like we were saying earlier. You play a system that has like skills and stuff, and or more skill, but not level based, like Dragon Bane. Ah, too heavy. Probably spending too much time on this thing, but I don't know. If I had a lighter green up here, which I don't, I'd probably go over the green again. But probably look fairly okay from an arm's distance on a table. Check her out. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Do a few minutes more, and then I'm probably gonna get some lunch. See if this one's dry. Yeah, I could do it. Let's do this one. Let's do it. I do need that paint. Yeah, I think I don't know. Like I think there's some thought. Put some thought into that. I'm always trying to figure out if the tweak my games to make them better. Like what would be better. That was one of the byproducts that we didn't expect coming in from like 5e to CNC was the slower leveling, and I didn't even consider it. And turned out that we actually everybody liked it. I did not like leveling in 5e because it just was too fast in my opinion. Especially in the earlier levels. I mean, it was designed to be fast, but I disagreed with their reasoning why. But I didn't. I never liked it. So I've liked the slower leveling, and I am fortunate that my players liked it as well. Whoops, um, we don't mind it. I have talked about, like, I've been thinking hard about if I was going to run a similar game for my next campaign. If I use like Adventures Dark and Deep, there's some changes I would make to the rules. And one of them I floated, I think I floated it to my son, what he thought about how they felt about um, people leveling at different rates, because of the classes, and going to like a universal um, XP chart. And he was kind of indifferent to it. I don't think it's a big issue. It's not a big issue for me. I have no problem with them leveling at different times. That's fine with me. But that's something I would float to them when the next, if I use that system for my next campaign. But, shit. Oops. God dang it. Yeah. Yeah, it does. I would probably, my thought is I would likely take the Pathfinder 1E chart, because they have a chart for like fast, medium, and slow leveling, and just pick which one I wanted to use and keep everybody on that same chart so they level at the same time. But it hasn't been a big deal for me, and I would have to talk to my group and see what they preferred. It, either way would be um, no issue for me. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's what I like. Like, again, I listen to some videos from guys that run OSR games, and it's like some of the play style just isn't what I'm into. I think, I think I have a blend. Like, I like the danger level of older school games, the simplicity of the systems. But like, I don't mind. Like, my guys like grand heroic stories, and they want to be heroes, and I want them to be heroes. Like, I don't run. I do plenty of improv like that. I don't railroad my guys into anything. I abandon stuff no matter how much time I've put into it. If they decide to go off in a different direction, whatever, it happens. I like that sometimes at the table, because then the game's also, I actually don't want the game to play out exactly how I envision it, because I want to be surprised too. So I I like when they do things that I don't expect, and they're very good at doing that and coming up with their plans. And one of the big lessons I learned was stop coming up with solutions to their plans and just let them do it. I'm like, I don't know, you guys figure, you got this hobgoblin outpost to deal with. What are you gonna do? And they come up with this plan, and I'm like, that's a pretty kick-ass plan. Like, that's probably gonna work pretty well. Um, and it did, And then I like that stuff. So I think have it like I like them being goal driven. I do. Not that I just want to be the most powerful dude in the neighborhood. It's kind of a boring goal. So I give them that big bad that they got to deal with. Like, oh, if they want to, if they want to be involved. If they don't, no problem. Like, they're dealing with a big bad now, um, going through his minions and stuff. But if they suddenly decided we don't want to do this, we want to go do X, Y, Z, something else. I'm like, okay, that's great. But again, like we talked about earlier, there'll be consequences for that. Like, because now, oh, maybe now he gets to do things probably unchecked, where now he's, or at least his minions are dealing with you guys. So, and you've taken down some of his minions, so it's like, yeah, I'm fine with that. I prefer it. And my guys seem to like it too. I'm like, and I've always, even when I was a kid, I mean, I didn't pull them off very successfully, but even when I was a kid, that's the type of game I ran. It was never like just, oh, I go out and do stuff randomly. Like, it was like, oh, there's going to be a big bad over here. They're not obligated to deal with him, but he is there. And if they want, the key to it is especially if you have guys that are group that are players that are like trying to like be more immersed with their characters and stuff. It's like, well, you start making some of the actions of the big bad a little more personal to them, and then they want to draw them in. Like one of the best things in my examples of that in my current campaign was my friend Chris's halfling rogue. When he came in, his backstory, oh my god, we had backstory. His backstory was that his brother, his older brother, was the sheriff of this area, a place called Moss Haven, where my son's campaign actually takes place. He was the sheriff there, and he was murdered by a cult, like brutally murdered. Like his face was literally cut off, and his backstory was like he was looking for his brother's killer, and he wanted revenge, and he ultimately got it, which led to some other things that have happened in the campaign, which were awesome. Like they were just awesome moments, but you know, those moments never would have occurred if he didn't have that backstory going into his game, and it wasn't personal like to him to pursue down this. That whole thing, like pursuing that cultist, actually led to the death of my son's ranger. I mean, they ended up getting him brought back, but he got killed in like the fight dealing with that, and so it was like a big deal. But they were all invested in it, which was awesome. And I don't think you get that sort of stuff as much when you're just like, unless you're like world class, and just can generate crazy stuff on the fly. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm interested to see because I'm going to be playing some games with some more old school guys at ShireCon. I'm just really interested to see how they run a game. I'm sure I'll learn some stuff that I maybe don't like, but I'll probably learn some stuff that I do like, and I like to be kind of like a I like to pick up what I want and shit can the stuff that I don't. Um, I really like to do that stuff. So and I've done that with everything like instruction. I was at my when I was working, I was an instructor for my place, and I used to train with all sorts of people, world class people, and I would just like part of it was like learning what they were teaching, but was like how are they teaching it, and I would try to figure out the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like, and use that stuff or not use it. So yeah, I do the same thing with my gaming. If I got into more narrative style gaming with playing with my friend Brendan. He's really good at that stuff, and was my first real exposure to it. So I use elements of that in my games. No problem. I like that stuff. I think it'd make a nice blend. Some people wouldn't like it, like it wouldn't be for them. But like, I mean, they did a thing where they took over a keep, and I just had to make like one roll. Like they were inside, they had snuck inside the keep, and like they were on the walls. They had to clear the walls and get the gate open so the army could come in. And I just had them all make like one roll each. And if it was, good or bad, and then I just kind of narrated what happened, and it got us through. I wasn't rolling, 400 to hit rolls to try to figure out who was going to win this battle. It was like just a couple. Yeah, and I think like stuff like that, Paul, like the Adventurers Guild stuff, that's cool. That's fine, like early on. But do I want to play? This is an exaggeration, but I'm not going to play 20 levels of that. If we're brand new, and we're as a, our characters are brand new, and we're trying to, get started, and then maybe a little bit of established. Yeah, okay, we'll take jobs from the event, but I would be dropping stuff in there as a game master that's going to lead to other things. We're not going to run a campaign where you're just doing one job after another for this guild and with no real consequence. That's one of the things I want to talk to my son about with his next. Um, oh, good. That's one of the things I want to talk to my son about. He ran an awesome campaign. Like it was his first. I mean, he's run like completely sessions that he's written, like not pre-written, stuff. Like he's created a whole cloth. In my setting, he's done that a couple times and been great. But this was like 10 sessions, played pretty much weekly. Uh, it was excellent. Like he developed the setting. He had like a great like story mystery for us to figure out too, and really everybody was thrilled with it. And we got into our characters and really enjoyed them. And it's the first time in a while where, as a player in the game, I've looked at a character like this is a long-term play character if he survives. There's always that possibility. 'Cause my son's also known for running a pretty brutal game. He's killed more than a fair share of my characters in the past. But so I dropped a bug in it, so I'm playing a cleric. So I was like, hey, I'm like, what you do next? He goes, I'm just throwing it out there. I would really like to deal with like undead stuff because I'm a cleric, right? So I'm into that. So I put that bug in his ear. So the other thing I want to talk to him about is, nah, he's probably not watching this. He's at work, and I don't know if he will watch this, but um, I want to talk about now. Now you might want to look at adding like the possibility of like a reoccurring villain. One of my favorite things as an NPC, as a DM, is or a game master, is having that reoccurring villain that they can come, keeps coming back, keeps coming back to haunt the party. So I'm gonna drop that bug. He bought a bunch of miniatures, so I kind of know a little bit of what possibly in for. Not the gory details, but I'm assembling miniatures for him that he bought to use in the game. Much like I did, I painted the Vroats from Emperor's Choice for him, and the toad frog, the flying toads. Um, Painted all. So we saw those in his game. Those are great. Um, so yeah, uh, I really just like that stuff. So, but yeah, I want a little more personal investment, like than just. I get bored with that in video games too. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's just a bunch of like, and I get it because I love like Baldur's Gate style video games, but sometimes some of them it's just like Jesus. Skyrim does it. It's like a fetch quest over and over and over again. It gets old. It gets old. I want to feel like we're actually accomplished something. But again, like in the beginning of the games or campaign, I don't mind it as much because you're probably going to be this nobody, so I don't need it like a huge big bad. But as we develop, I want to see that stuff come out. All right, what do I have left here? Oh, green. Yeah, I've had that happen. I've had that happen. And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought about kind of spinning the table on him because I put together these miniatures for him, and it's going to be a while before he gets to run his game again. But I'm like, I could use these miniatures. I have some ideas I could use these for. So I don't know if I want to like use them before he does because I don't know. But I'm considering it. That'll fix him. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I wish he. I actually wish he'd picked up like the painting bug, but he never really did. He did it a little bit, but not a ton. He talks about doing it, but I don't have the best setup for group painting. A couple more lights, I guess we'd be okay. But he did mention after all his purchases this weekend that he should learn at least how to put them together to take some of the burden off me because he also knows it's not my favorite part. So I actually hate putting miniatures together, but I like painting them, but I don't like assembling them. Especially freaking Games Workshop miniatures can either be like awesome or a total pain in the ass to put together. And the ones I'm doing for him are both. um, yeah, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could use it. I haven't used it. I may use it because I have some of the bigger ones. They sent me home with some of their two of their bigger ones. When I did the dragon for the auction for CNY, I didn't use JB. I just used I think super glue, and I don't even know if I pinned them. I think I did. Although they're built to kind of like you can actually put that dragon together without pinning it or gluing it. Like it'll stay together. That's how good the sockets and everything are for it. But you could use JB Weld. I actually am planning on getting some to um, try to do those one. I got one. I don't know. It looks like a big beetle. It's called something else, but you could use that stuff. People use that stuff. Come on. All right. I'd probably do with brighter green, but I don't have a brighter green. So go over it again. Oops. Yeah. I don't mind the painting. I like the painting part. I do give GW credit that their miniatures are generally pretty clean. Not always, but I'm not talking about Forge World stuff. That stuff's horrendous. But the regular miniatures are pretty good, but they're just so fiddly. Like they freaking chop shit up into parts. When I mean, it's all I think something to do with corporate and pricing and parts per part. I don't know, but like the I bought. They're in the other room, but I bought a box of Skaven. Right, this is a good example. There was five of them, and they had like the backpacks on. They were throwing whatever that crap warpstone stuff that they make or whatever that bombs like little bombs, and they all had like face masks on with a tube that would attach to their backpack. Well, there's five of them. Four out of the five, you literally just put their helmet or their headpiece in with like there was a shoulder piece, and then you attach it to the body, and it lined up perfectly. Put it in the notch right way, good to go. Four out of the five, that's how they work. The fifth one, its nose is cut off, and there's two tubes going out that are like these free floating little pieces of very thin plastic that you got to try to line up. And it was a giant pain in the ass. And I was like, you couldn't make the fifth one that way? Like, why did this one have to be different? Because of their corporate reasons, I guess. But oh my God, pissed me off. I was glad to get those together. I mean, I got a freaking giant box of them, but box like this, I mean, this will be built as needed, right? I'm not going to build all these guys, but if I need, oh Jesus, if I need to throw my back out, I'll just keep lifting it up. But it's got like this guy on a giant rat, like that one's cool. It's got like the regular swarm, I don't know what they're called. It's actually got two of those, which means I now have three of those because I already had one. Got some rat ogres, which now I have like six of those because I already painted some rat ogres. And it's got a warlock. Actually, wait a minute. Who's that guy? Who the hell is that guy? It's got two warlocks. Or whatever that guy is. Holy shit. I'm going to have to dig that out. I don't know what that is. It's got some of the guys with the big long rifle looking things, and a big cannon. Pretty cool stuff. But that'll be built as needed. I already have a bunch of Skaven downstairs that I haven't finished that I probably should do first. Yeah, I've never played that. I've bought miniatures from them to use in my role playing games because they make some cool stuff. But I've never played. Again, I don't play miniature games. I mean, just doing this foray into Rangers of Shadow Deep will be my real first foray. I mean, I played one-offs here and there. Like I did a little bit of the Lord of the Rings game. I did the Necromunda session, but I haven't really to say I've done it. I can't say I've done it. So, but this is all gearing up for Rangers of Shadow Deep. So I'll keep plugging away at it. I can play it at home and then run it at CNY. But I think I got quite a bit done. I finished painting my trees, so my trees are all painted, which is awesome. I just got to flock the top of them, but I got to wait for payday to do that. And then I got my 2 rocks painted. I may put some flocking on those to spice them up a little bit. Got these guys here. You guys can see them. Pretty cool. These were free files that I got on the Bamboo website. So those are pretty cool. And then I got 2 of these guys painted. These are from the Gloaming Kickstarter on Printable Scenery. They were designed by a guy named Johnny Fraser Allen. Super talented dude. Very one of the guys I find like in the hobby, like that I find is an inspiring person. Like I'll watch a video that he does. He doesn't put out a lot of videos. Most of it's on his Patreon, which I don't follow only because of stupid credit card things. But anytime you put out something, I always watch it. And he's designed a bunch of stuff and got more stuff coming, which I'll be getting the files for now that I can print stuff on my own. But yeah, so I got that done. So yeah, that's pretty good. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got a few more. I'm taking some of these things, and I'm gonna build a. They kind of have steps going up to them. I can put it over here and look. I can show you guys. I can try without breaking something. So you have this one. This is a bigger one. Whoops. And it kind of has like a set of steps that go up. Well, I have it all printed out already, but then I printed it again. Oh, maybe, wait a minute. Is this the right one? No, I'm an idiot. Sorry. Come here. All right, this is it. My bad. So you have this one, right? And it has steps going up. You see it. Then I'm going to take this piece and put it on top. It also has steps going up. Oops, sorry. It also has steps going up to here. And then there's this little piece. And I'm going to add that to the top. So it has, that also has steps. So you'll have this one like pinnacle thing, but you'll have this much taller hill mound by the time you're done. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to have to fill in a few gaps. It's not a perfect fit, but like there's a few little gaps there and stuff. I'll have to fill that stuff, but I think that'll work. I stumbled across this idea just messing around with these pieces. So I can get it mostly to line up, so the gap filling won't be too bad. But I have this all printed up. A second of all 3 of these that I plan to print up in paint. It's already printed. But I got to glue it together and prime it. Although I have primer on some of them. But yeah, not a bad day of accomplishing stuff, which is great. But I think I'm going to get on out of here. I really appreciate everybody, Paul, Dan, hanging out, everybody that stopped in. Awesome. I had planned on just doing this like on Monday, but I'm home during the day most days during the week. So I know Bloodworth does his streams sometimes Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I like to watch and sometimes partake in those. So, but like on these off days, like Monday and Wednesday, I'm usually doing nothing here by myself. So you guys might get stuck with me. But I appreciate it, and I will catch you all later.